All right. Welcome, everyone. As I mentioned, my name is Eilish Russell. I am the Associate Director of Career Advising at the Creative Careers team here at ArtCenter. I'm joined today by my colleague, Kayla. She's going to be co-facilitating this workshop with me.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining.
We're so excited for you to be here. So today, our workshop topic is designing your career roadmap. This is the first part of a series that we're titling You Need a Plan, which is all about proactive preparation for your job search process, for your time at ArtCenter, and for really developing a strong knowledge and body of understanding for how you can take advantage of all of the resources that are available to you here and after you graduate. So let's kind of talk a little bit through our agenda. I want us to be able to answer the following four questions after our time together today. The first is, what's a career roadmap? The second is, how do I make one? Then, how does a career roadmap help me plan for my creative careers? And I've specifically said here careers, plural, because you may have multiple directions that you want to go in. Your career singular may take multiple iterations over the course of the rest of your life. And because there's lots of different ways that we can plan or different approaches we can take to this particular process. And then finally, what should I do next? It's really, really helpful to have some actionable next steps for our processes, for our planning, for how we want to tackle this information that we've just been given. So, we're going to talk a little bit about short and long term steps that we can take to really kind of utilize all of this information and these resources in the best way possible. So, what is a career roadmap? Really, basically, and very generally, a career roadmap is going to be a flexible plan that outlines your goals and then the steps that you want to take to reach them. So, this can be used in a few different ways, but here, what we want to achieve is either a set of things, experiences, skills, opportunities, connections, community that we know will help us with our long term goals and career plans, or developing an understanding of the potential opportunities that we have that can help us reach those goals in the future. And I'll show us a little bit about how this looks in a few different ways. We're going to look at some sample roadmaps just so that we can see them in action. But I really want to encourage you to think of this as a planning tool that you can utilize in a variety of different ways and that is designed to be flexible and based on your own interests, immediate or in the long term. So, what is a career roadmap not? What are the aspects that aren't applicable to a career roadmap? It's not a fixed schedule. You're not saying, I have to do this by this time, or saying this needs to happen in this order. You're creating a little bit of a structure for yourself to follow, to help you identify resources, to help you figure out maybe what order things would ideally happen in. But it's not a fixed schedule that you have to keep. So I don't want anybody to think about designing a career roadmap as if I don't hit step two of my roadmap in that order, then the rest of the roadmap isn't useful. More so, this is a guide to help us see maybe how we can get to that endpoint, and also, just as helpful, maybe what other options we have if a specific option or a specific point on our roadmap isn't available to us for whatever reason. A career roadmap is also not for a single pathway. This isn't something that's only applicable to people in certain design fields. It's not only applicable if you are looking for a certain type of job. It's not only applicable for specifically your job search after graduation. We're going to be talking about this in a little bit, but it's something that you can use for your time at ArtCenter just as much as for your time after ArtCenter. And it's not something that we need to think about as we make one and then that's the only one that we should make or that we need to make. We can make many with multiple different pathways to help us see different visions of what our creative careers can look like, what different skill building processes look like. All of this is about building knowledge and giving ourselves tools to find the next steps. So, let's talk about a couple of approaches to career roadmaps, and then we're going to look at what those actually involve in our next chat. But I'm going to stop for a minute just to ask if anybody has any questions. So, our first approach to a career roadmap is for your career at ArtCenter. What are you going to do with your time here? So, this might look like identifying a specific skill that you want to develop while you're here. That could be a technical design skill. It could be a what we might call an essential or a soft skill like networking. And then planning for how you will achieve that skill while you're here. It could also be that you want to take part in as many experiences as possible while you're at ArtCenter. Think things like sponsored studios or studying away or being the president of a club. And so, in order to do that, you want to kind of lay out what all of those options are so that you can see maybe what order it makes the most sense for you to approach them in, or maybe what prerequisites you need to have in order to do some of those things. For example, most sponsored studios require you to be at least fourth term or above. Our next approach is going to be for your career after ArtCenter. So this can look like after I graduate, I really want to be a designer at Nike. And so what we might look at is some of those folks who were designers at Nike, what was their trajectory? What types of experiences did they tend to have before they got that position? Are there a lot of commonalities? Did they tend to have the same types of internship experiences? Do they tend to have the same types of work on their portfolios? What are there commonalities that we can pull from to create those steps or opportunities to gain that experience in our own lives? This could also be starting with um, a specific type of role, or maybe the freedom to be in freelance and choosing a lot of different types of roles. And what does it look like to scale within the field of creative entrepreneurship could be your career roadmap following your career after ArtCenter. And then finally, our last career roadmap, and maybe the one that's the easiest to start with as a current student, is to understand all of the options within your, we'll say, career trajectory or perhaps design field. So, what are the common types of experiences students have while they're at ArtCenter? What are the common types of internship titles they're pursuing? What are the common types of junior designer role titles that they're exploring? And what types of companies do those tend to be at? Then, what does it look like to scale and take on new positions or new experiences at each stage of our career? Maybe all the way up to your final stage of your career, 15 to 20 years into your time in the professional space. This can help you understand, is that end goal something that I'm really interested in? Are there other things that I really might like to do with that skill set? And then again, what do I need to do in order to achieve them? So there are multiple approaches here, which is again why I mentioned that I think it's really, really important for us to think of a career roadmap, not just as something that we're doing to think about our time after ArtCenter for a specific role, but something that we do to build knowledge and understanding of a lot of different types of skills that we can tap into, resources that we can access, etc. So, as I mentioned, I am going to chat a little bit more in depth about how we build a career roadmap on a very, very basic level, right? What are some of the steps that we want to consider? And we're going to look at two examples of career roadmaps from two different approaches so that you can see what they might look like when they're actually filled in. But before we begin that, does anybody have any questions? You can put your questions in the chat, or if you're open to it and you know that we're recording, you're also welcome to unmute yourself and ask your question out loud. If there's no questions, that's also completely okay. I just wanted to open up the opportunity. No? Okay. All right. Let's move on to kind of what does it take to do this? So, the first step that I recommend taking in your career roadmap development is picking your approach. So, do you want to focus on your time here at ArtCenter, your time after graduation, or on understanding all of those potential opportunities that are available to you? Now, there isn't a specific approach that I think is best overall, but I would say if you're in your earlier terms at ArtCenter, if your terms maybe 1, 2, and 3, a great first career roadmap might be what do you want to focus on your time here? Or what are all of the opportunities available to you in the field based on the program that you're studying at the moment? This can help you in a few ways. If you want to focus on what you can do during your time here, it can help you set up some of the future terms that you'll take. So, what types of skills do you want to build might help you choose certain classes. What types of opportunities do you want to take part in, like joining a club or leading a club or participating in a sponsored studio? Might help you plan some of those extracurricular activities. Even something like studying away requires a little bit of preparation and time in advance to pick the program that you want to participate in, prepare the application materials, etc. All of this can really help you plan your time well so that you are not caught unaware when an application or an opportunity appears. But also, it will help you see maybe which opportunities are the best to do in what order. Alternatively, looking at all of the opportunities that are available to you potentially in your field can help you take stock of what sounds really great at the moment. What seems like it matches your current understanding of your priorities and your interests? If there are certain things that stand out when you look at the types of jobs people tend to have right after they graduate, where they go after 5 years, where they go after 10 years in their field, you might start to see some patterns. And from there, you can take that type of roadmap to your academic advisors or to your academic department and say, hey, I'm noticing these types of jobs that are really common in my field, and they sound really, really exciting. I'm wondering if you can help me identify classes in my program that will really help me to align myself with those skill sets and prepare for those types of jobs. Alternatively, you might find some titles that maybe you're not at all that interested in, or that you maybe have never even heard of before. And so now you've identified a research opportunity for you to find more information about what that title involves, maybe what types of people do in that title, what titles does that then lead to in terms of growth and development and scaling up within your field. So again, you're developing this understanding that you can use to plan your coursework or to identify internships that you might be interested in, etc. For those of you who are in your later third of your time at ArtCenter, you might want to create a career roadmap in preparation for graduation and the types of skills and experiences and steps that you want to take to prepare yourself best to thrive after you graduate. This can kind of look like designing a job search strategy, but specifically in terms of milestones that you want to achieve to get to that long-term goal. Again, this can happen at any time, and anybody at any term can use any of these approaches, but depending on where you are, you might find one a little bit more fruitful than the other. Now, once you have picked your approach, you're going to identify your vision. So, what's the goal that you want to work towards based on your approach? Is there a specific skill that you want to develop? What body of knowledge do you want to learn a little bit more about? And then maybe, is there a specific job that you want to create your roadmap for, or do you want to create your roadmap generally based on the program that you're in? As in, maybe you're an illustration student and you're thinking, I really want to set myself up to be most successful in my applications following graduation. So I'm going to create my roadmap to be the most flexible and the most open to all different types of opportunities. Finally, our third step here, and this is really general again, is going to be to start conducting your research. So after you've picked your goal, you're going to identify which milestones fit that goal or will help you to achieve that goal by conducting a little bit of research to understand how to get there. So, for example, if you decide that your approach is going to be to learn a certain skill while at ArtCenter, or your approach is going to be specifically focused on your time at ArtCenter. Your goal is to learn a certain skill. Your milestones might be what types of classes are going to help me learn that skill, or what non-class opportunities exist at ArtCenter to help me develop that skill. Maybe even how will I know when I've developed or felt confident in my ability to use that skill? If you're thinking about the potential opportunities available to you after you graduate, think about the time milestones that you might be interested in thinking of your career in. So maybe you want to think about the first 3 years after you graduate as your first set of milestones. Then you might want to think about the years 3 to 5 as a next set of milestones, and then 5 to 10, and then 10 plus. Or you might have a whole different set of milestones to help you figure out, how do I want to break down my next few steps, or what my next few steps could be based on what I know about my industry. This research can be done in a lot of different ways, right? It depends on what your approach is and what your goal is. And so that could look like doing some research on LinkedIn, the social media tool that's specifically for professional networking. It could look like reaching out to Creative Careers to schedule an advising appointment to say, hey, I really want to start building this knowledge and add it into my career roadmap. I'm not sure how to get started. Can you give me some suggestions? It might look like reaching out to academic advising or your academic department to learn a little bit more. There are lots of different ways to conduct your research. You might even reach out to friends or alumni that you know to say, hey, this is some information that I'm looking to learn. Where would you suggest I get started? But let me be very clear here. Creative Careers is here to support you on developing all of these career roadmaps. We are available in appointments. We would love to meet with you and chat about how to develop one of these roadmaps or one of these documents to help you. And it doesn't have to be something that you do on your own. This is just a really generalized guide. So let's see what this looks like, right? For our first example, we're looking at our career at ArtCenter, and we've specifically taken the goal here of networking. So during my time at ArtCenter, I want to get better at networking. And that's because I know that networking is going to be really, really important for my job search after graduation. And being able to speak publicly and be in settings with people that I don't know well is something that makes me feel maybe a little bit nervous. So I want to create opportunities for myself to build that skill, knowing how important it is. So I'm starting my career roadmap based on the research that I've done with joining a club. There are so many different clubs on campus, and they're for all different types of personal interests. So I think I'm going to start with joining a club because it is going to be a great way for me to meet my peers and talk about a subject that I really like. That's going to make networking and meeting new people easier if I get to talk about something that I really like. So that's going to be my first step. It's kind of a lower barrier to entry where I feel really confident and comfortable in my ability to talk about this thing. Plus, I get to meet cool people, which is great. My next step in my roadmap is that I'm going to practice presenting. I'm going to get a little bit more comfortable with public speaking. So maybe I take a class. I plan to take a class where presenting is part of the coursework. I know some of you have a lot of classes in your programs where presenting is required. Some of you have fewer classes where presenting is required. But maybe we identify, I really want to practice presenting. I want to get better at public speaking. And I know that that will be helpful for networking. So I'm going to take a class where that's required. Maybe I schedule a meeting with Creative Careers, a nice career advising appointment, and we talk about how to get yourself really ready for presenting and how to calm nerves and prepare for a presentation. Then my next step might be to attend a career chat. Creative Careers hosts career chats with different employers and different industry folks every single term. We switch it up. I'll show a few of them that are upcoming to you at the end of this workshop for anybody who's interested. But a career chat is a really, really great way to meet professionals working in your specific field, working at a company that you're really interested in, and ask them questions. And that's networking. Going to an event where folks in your industry are chatting and available for questions is an awesome first step to networking. And you can always follow up on that career chat specific experience to request to connect with them on LinkedIn. Or maybe if they share their contact information, send them a thank you email saying, "It was so great to meet you. I really appreciated the information that you shared, and I'm really looking forward to connecting with you in the future, perhaps about an internship opportunity or working at your company." Again, because they've invited themselves to ArtCenter and they're opening themselves up for questions, it can feel a little bit more comfortable to maybe push ourselves to network in this way as a first step. Then maybe my next identification of milestone is to take a TDS or transdisciplinary studio. Maybe I'm really used to chatting with my peers in my department because we all have similar skills and interests, and it's kind of easy to talk to them, right? Illustrator to illustrator, transportation designer to transportation designer. But I really want to push myself to get comfortable talking to folks in other design disciplines. I know that it's really important for designers to be comfortable working transdisciplinarily or interdisciplinarily. I know it's really important to be able to talk to people who don't just work in my design field. So I'm going to plan to take a TDS. Maybe that's a sponsored studio or another type of class where I get to have that experience. Then maybe my next milestone is taking it one step further to conduct an informational interview. An informational interview is where you reach out directly to a professional in your field whose career pathway you really admire, whose experience within the industry is really interesting to you. And you ask them if they would be open to answering some questions that you have, where you get advice for next steps, or they talk about what they really love in their career. And an informational interview is really self-directed. You reach out directly, you ask them if they're open, and then you send them your questions or schedule a time to meet. And it can be really great for developing information, but it's also an amazing networking opportunity to practice all of those skills we've already been building. We're presenting a little bit about ourselves and asking questions. So there's a little bit of public speaking involved. We're talking about ourselves and our work, maybe with somebody who hasn't gone through our program, even if they work in the same field as us, or maybe we're interested in their career and they don't work in exactly the same field as us. So we're using some of those interdisciplinary design conversation pieces that we practiced in a TDS. And we're using that experience at a career chat to understand the types of questions that we might ask. And then finally, we're building on all of these steps here, where maybe my end goal for networking is to take an internship. Maybe my intern formational interview is designed to learn a little bit about the internship program at a certain company. What advice would you have for me to have a really successful application? Maybe I attended a career chat at a company that I really want to intern with in the future. And I got to ask questions to the person who was there about what does it look like to apply for the internship program at your company? And so I'm building on all of these steps and closing out my experience networking, at least in terms of my time at ArtCenter, with taking an internship where I get to pull all those skills together and then close out that internship, really making sure that that experience was fruitful for me and that my network is nourished and strong because I have practiced all of these skills. Now, if any one of these steps in my career roadmap doesn't happen or doesn't happen in the order that I anticipated it, that's okay because I've done my research and I know what other opportunities are available here. So, in addition to the text that you see here with take an internship or conduct an informational interview, I might put in the bodies of these little bubbles some other things that I could do in addition to or instead of that primary milestone that could also help me develop that skill. So maybe instead of taking an internship, I take a sponsored studio. Or instead of taking an internship, I look into freelancing opportunities in my field to kind of understand what the working experience is like, if that's more common for my design industry. I give myself options and I know that it's not the be all end all. It's not that strict formal schedule. It's something that I would love to do and milestones that I would love to hit, but I have options to explore if I don't hit every single one of them. Now, for our next example, before we get into another round of questions, if anybody has them, we're looking at our options within our career trajectory or our field in the long run. This can help us plan for the types of internships we're applying for, maybe what titles we should look at as open job postings, and maybe even if one of these things sounds specifically interesting, how do I prepare for that specific thing? And if one of these things doesn't sound interesting, how do I still create a series of growth opportunities for myself that doesn't end with that final title that I'm not really that interested in? This is also a really great place for me to start researching what do these titles involve, right? What does it mean to be this specific title? So, for our purposes today, we're looking at transportation design. So we've started with internships. That's our first piece of our transportation design career roadmap for general options within the industry. And we've listed out some common titles that I, based on the research that I've done, know are common for transportation design students to take part in. So exterior design, creative design, automotive design, maybe interior and exterior design. Some companies hire folks for both. And all of these have the title intern at the end. And we note that these internships typically require no previous professional working experience. Maybe they're looking for you to have certain types of projects on your portfolio or a certain set of skills. Then we move into entry level roles. And what are some of those titles like? Exterior designer, creative designer, maybe industrial designer, or automotive wheel designer, depending on the company and the type of work you want to go into. And based on our research, we might identify that these happen usually between 0 and 2 years of experience, or maybe 0 and 3 years of experience. And these are what we would call entry level roles, as in maybe that first couple of steps that you have after you graduate from college. Our next set of roles, we'll call these maybe associate roles. So 2 to 3 or 2 to 5 years of experience. These might look like design researcher or associate interior designer or design consultant. Or let's say maybe you really like designing, but you also have this other set of skills that you've developed. And so you're also maybe interested in being a transportation design professor. You maybe want to come back to ArtCenter or go to another design school and teach the design work that you love doing. This gives us some options for different types of roles within the industry because we also see design consultant, which might be a little bit more freelance, a little bit more self-directed rather than a full-time in-house role. Then our next level of growth could be these mid to senior level roles, which could look like senior designer, senior specialist. These might be in our 3 to 5 or 3 to 7 year range. Then we go to our director roles. So design director, creative director, and this might be in the 5 to 10 or 7 to 10 year range. And then our very last piece here might be executive roles. So creative executive, design executive, chief operating officer, depending on the design studio. And these might be 10 plus or 15 years plus years of experience. Now, after I've done all of this research to build this body of knowledge, to identify these are pathways or titles or opportunities that I can take, I might start to see some trends. I might start to see, folks usually work a few years in each position before they get promoted to another role or they move between experience levels. I might start to see that certain types of companies have the same types of roles popping up regularly, and other companies have different titles where they use different words to describe the same type of role. And as I mentioned earlier, I might find titles that just don't sound that interesting to me. Maybe I just don't feel like they'd be a good fit for me. Or, as I mentioned, maybe I just don't know what they involve. And so I then start looking into what does a chief operating officer do at a car design company or an industrial design studio? What does the creative executive do? What types of skills are they using? Who are they working with? What would my day-to-day life look like? And we could do that from the bottom up or from the top down to kind of understand what feels like a really great place for me based on my interests. Because this isn't locking us in to a specific trajectory or roadmap, it's just presenting a series of options. What we can then do is set ourselves up to go in a specific direction, knowing that maybe there's flexibility or that we'd like to pivot. But also, we could say, I want to not consider this particular type of role at all. I'm not locking myself into these things specifically. So, those are a couple of our examples. And again, I've been speaking a lot, so I'd like to take a minute and again, just ask, does anybody have any questions about anything that we've reviewed thus far, or any thoughts about the kind of concepts and approach that we've shared? You can drop those in the chat, or you can unmute yourself to ask out loud if you would like.
I just feel like it's really personal. So if we really need some help, that we will need to talk to you. But yeah, so yeah, that's just how I feel.
Yeah, so these are really personal, right?
Mhm.
Aside from the options within your career trajectory, which is meant to be a little bit general, it's meant to say, like, here are all of the directions you could potentially take based on the program that you're in, or the types of things that people do based on the program that you're in. These are really personal. That's why we're speaking really generally about the types of steps you would take to develop one, right? We start with maybe identifying our approach and then our goal. As I mentioned earlier, we would be really happy to help you in designing these career roadmaps. Happy to help you identify your next steps. All of that can be done in a career advising appointment. But I would also recommend, again, tapping into your faculty, into the academic advising team as well, to kind of help you hone your approach and get to that really personal piece of information. But yeah, that's a great point. Any other questions or thoughts? No? Okay, no worries. So we're going to go into our next topic here, which is how does this help me, right? Because perhaps you joined us a few minutes late, so we didn't really talk about why these are important, or perhaps you um, are really just not sure what doing something like this means. So let's talk a little bit about how it helps. First and foremost, it's going to provide you a little bit of clarity in a world of choices. Whether you're talking about your time at ArtCenter or your time after ArtCenter or all of the potential directions that you can take your career in, there are so many choices, so many classes to take, so many clubs to join, so many skills to build. And sometimes it could feel a little bit like I don't know what I should be doing and what I should be focusing on. And creating a career roadmap can really help you focus in on a specific goal and provide clarity about how to get to that goal, limiting the choices in a good way to those that are going to be most beneficial for you. Next, it's going to give you a bit of direction without locking you in, right? So you are not beholden to your career roadmap, but it can help you see a pathway forward, especially if there are many, many, many opportunities within your industry or many, many opportunities within the field that you work in. It can feel a little bit like I don't know what direction to choose. And this can be a first step in helping you define that. Next, it breaks big goals into these doable steps. Sometimes when we think about where we want to end up in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, which is a really big goal, like I want to be the director of a design studio, that can feel like a huge undertaking, right? Because we don't go from term 4 student to design studio director. We take a lot of steps along the way. So this process breaks down what those steps can look like into increments that feel reasonable for us to take on and those doable steps that we know how to achieve. Next, it helps you use your time in college wisely. You have around 8 terms with us. Some of you maybe a little bit more, some of you maybe a few less, and that time is going to go really fast. And it's really important to, as much as you can, use your time at ArtCenter wisely, whether that's taking certain classes, participating in certain experiences, learning certain skills. This can really help you hone in on what is the best or most optimal use of your time. Next, it helps you prepare for internships, jobs, grad school, all of these different areas that you know that you want to um, maybe get to or that will help you in your long-term goals as well. So you could even create a career roadmap for getting to an internship. The internship could be your final goal. And what steps do you need to take to get that internship offer and begin that internship? It could be creating a portfolio. It could be making sure certain work is on that portfolio. It could be networking and connecting with people that work at that company. Next, it encourages self-reflection and growth, right? So a career roadmap is designed for you to identify what is going to most help me achieve that goal. Not anyone ever, but me specifically. And also, what goal is most important to me? How can I grow best to achieve the goal that I have? Next, it helps you see progress. If you know that you have milestones to hit, when you hit those milestones, you get to celebrate yourself. You get to say, I did it. I achieved that milestone, and I'm really excited and proud of myself. Because sometimes it can feel a little bit dissuading when we don't see progress in our building or in our careers in certain ways. So seeing progress through those milestones can be really, really beneficial. And finally, and to our previous question, it makes it easier to ask for help. When you know what your goals are and you know what it takes to achieve them, you're better able to identify who is the best person to help me achieve that milestone, to achieve that goal. Maybe it's creative careers. Maybe it's scheduling an appointment with us. Maybe it's talking with your academic department about the courses that are going to be most helpful for you in building the skills that you need to get to that position that you're interested in. Maybe it's the academic advising team. Maybe it is study away. Maybe it's conducting informational interviews. But when you know what you need to do, you're better able to identify who can help you do that thing and then ask for that help because you're asking for something specific and with a specific goal to a specific group or certain person. All of that is really, really beneficial. And the primary end stage of these career roadmaps isn't that we make a career roadmap, complete all the steps, and then we're done and we throw it away, right? It is all about building on other things. We create a career roadmap for a time at ArtCenter that then hopefully prepares us for building a career roadmap and a job search strategy for after we graduate, because we all want to work in our industries and do things that we love and get paid well to do them. So we're building a set of self-reflection and strategic planning skills that help us in the long term as well as right now. So as we're rounding out our time today, what are some things that I can do next? This is a very, very generalized time frame. You do not need to use this exact time frame, but if you would like to, if you find that setting yourself specific time-based goals is helpful, this is a great time to do it. Over the next 2 weeks, you can decide that you want to create a career roadmap, pick your approach. You can conduct a little self-assessment to really understand your priorities. And we'll be dropping in a link for some resources to self-assessments at the end of this chat today. And then maybe you can identify your goal. So what is the thing that you want to work towards? Over the next 2 months, you can start researching. You can identify some of those milestones that you want to reach based on the research that you're doing. And then you can find those resources and ask for that help based on what your milestones are. And then over the next 2 terms, or maybe, you have 1 term left at ArtCenter, and so it's a term and then a little bit of time afterwards, you're going to be tracking your milestones. You're going to reassess, is my career roadmap the one that is most helpful for me? How am I doing on my milestones? Am I achieving them? Is there one that I maybe need to reassess, or do I need to ask for more help with achieving that milestone because I've been having a hard time on my own? And then recalibrate if needed. If you reassess your milestones and you realize, I'm having a really hard time doing this one thing or achieving this one milestone, maybe we recalibrate and we ask for specific help, or we ask if this milestone can be achieved in the way that we're looking for it to be achieved. And we identify other options or more resources or other ways that we can go about achieving that milestone that maybe we hadn't thought of before. And again, you'll notice here that all of this is really self-directed. I'm going to encourage you to schedule an appointment with Creative Careers. Link for that coming shortly in the chat. I'm going to encourage you to reach out to your department and to your academic advisors and folks in your network. But a lot of this is also about taking the time to check in with yourself, to say, am I on track with my milestones? Am I working towards those skills or those goals that I'm setting out for myself? And that self-direction and self-reflection, those are skills that we need to develop because they will support us for the rest of our lives. This process is about starting to develop those skills and have those check-in moments with ourselves so that we can use them long-term, not just here while we're making our career roadmap, but for the rest of our time at ArtCenter, for the rest of our time in our careers. Having that proactivity, that kind of self-direction, is going to serve us just as well as all of our technical design skills will, just as well as all of the skills we're building in the classroom will. Those are really, really important steps to work through. So these are some of our next steps. Now, As I mentioned, we're going to be dropping some links in the chat very shortly. I recommend taking a look at all of those links. Again, things like self-assessments. We have a blank career roadmap that you can utilize to fill in on your own. We have advising appointments that you can schedule in order to work on this information yourself and with us to have some chats. But I really recommend kind of keeping an eye on what we have and seeing what resources are already out there for you. Because I guarantee you, if it's a question that you've asked, we might have already provided a resource about it on our website, and I would love for you to go and take a look. So with that, and as we're hitting our a little bit less than 10 minutes today, I would like to open up the floor for any last questions or thoughts. I know that we got a question in the chat that said, let's see, is there a version of the roadmap that we looked at earlier for interaction design? We don't currently have one of those versions for interaction design. That's something that I would encourage you to start working on yourself. We're looking to build out all of these in full so that we can start sharing them with departments. But this was just a sample one for transportation design that I think could even be built and expanded on more thoroughly. I don't think it's the be all end all of transportation design. And this is something that I would recommend that you do in interaction if you are interested, but we are looking to build them all out in full for all of the departments as well. That's a great question. Any other questions? And just to note, my colleague Kayla dropped in not only a series of awesome PDF resources, but also our website where you can find a lot of additional resources and related topics to these. And again, I'll encourage you, if you have a question and you'd like to unmute yourself, you can actually ask it out loud if you're interested. Okay. While we're waiting for any last minute questions, I am going to share a couple of upcoming events. These are some things that our department is doing over the next couple of weeks, couple of months that may be of interest to you. These are not the be all end all of our programming. So I really recommend visiting our website so that you can find out about all of the workshops and career chats and opportunities that we're hosting the rest of this year. But over the next couple of days, couple of weeks, we have a career chat with Tesla. We're going to be offering free lunch, which is exciting. But there's going to be a great chat on meeting Tesla designers and gaining valuable insights about what's going on there. We're hosting another career chat with OpenAI. There's also going to be portfolio reviews that are happening surrounding that particular workshop. A lot of you may have already gotten invitations to the OpenAI portfolio reviews, but again, you can find all information about those on our website. And then finally, we're hosting a design storm the weekend of October 14th through 16th. This will be a 3-day event where you get to work directly with industry, specifically the Pacific Edge Hotel, on real world designs based on a brief that they have designed for you. And if you're selected to participate in the design storm, you're going to receive an intellectual property payment for the work that you do. This is open to all fourth term and above students in the departments that are mentioned here. So product and industrial, graphic design, and spatial. And the deadline to apply is September 30th. Know that that is a hard deadline. If you apply after the 30th, your application will not be accepted. And we would really, really love for you to participate. It's an awesome opportunity to do some of those things that we mentioned as milestones on our career roadmap. Network, gain industry experience, get feedback, learn and practice our networking and presentation skills, which is really, really important. So keep an eye out for those. Please come if you're interested. You can meet Kayla and I in person if you're interested in doing so. We'd love to say hi to you. And we are really excited to see you. Now, I know that we got a question in the chat and that Kayla did provide a response already. Excellent response, and I agree with everything that she mentioned, but I'll ask it out loud for anybody that isn't checking the chat. So, what are some good examples of questions to ask our professors or people in our industry? This is a really, really awesome question, as Kayla mentioned. So, are there any opportunities or mentors that would be helpful for you to apply to or research? This could look like internship opportunities, it could look like opportunities to have your portfolio reviewed, etc. It might also be helpful to ask them what's their favorite part about their job and what's their least favorite part about their job or their design field. Do those things align with what you're interested in? Do they maybe not align with what you're interested in or not interested in? You can also ask questions like, for example, what's the biggest piece of advice or what is the top skill that you think somebody needs to thrive in this particular industry? We actually have a full guide to informational interviews, which is some of those questions or the kind of format for asking questions that you would be doing, people in the industry, on our website. Again, these are called informational interviews, and we have a full guide on our website. I would really recommend checking that out because it provides not only some sample questions, but also an approach that you can use to reach out to somebody to say, hey, I would really love to have a chat. Are you open to that? Would you like to meet for coffee or tea? Or can I send you some questions via email? Which is really helpful. That's an awesome question. Thank you.